Hello and welcome to Match Made in 7, a new podcast series from Northeast-based comedy collective Your Aunt Fanny. During one particularly painful Megabus journey last year, 7 Fannies had the sudden realisation there were also 7 deadly sins. Megabus madness or cosmic coincidence? In this debut series, we will hilariously probe each of the 7 deadly sins and what it means to be a young woman or non-binary person partial to one or more of them. Settle in for a pairing of original sketches and frank chat as we invite you into our Fanny universe, where everyone is in on the joke. Before we start, a heads up, this episode will contain strong language, so don't listen to it in the car with your kids in the back, unless you're a laugh. Episode 1, Wrath. Today's first episode is about wrath. And I'm Katie and I'm hosting the Wrath episode of Match Made in 7. And I am joined by
Lydia Brickland.
Emma Crawley-Bennett. I don't want to use my full name.
Sorry, Lydia.
Emma.
I'm Matilda.
And we're aware that we all maybe sound a little bit similar because we're all women of the same age and from the same place. So hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. So I am doing Wrath. And I think a lot of the sins were chosen sort of randomly. Like some people were just sort of like pulled names out of a hat, but I really specifically asked if I could do Wrath because it is the bane of my life, getting angry on a daily basis and having no way to express that. Maybe. So yeah, the definition in the dictionary of wrath is extreme anger, which I think is a bit of a cop-out. Because I Googled it and it said extreme anger, and then you can like click on the anger and then it's like irritability. And it just goes around in circles. So I just think that's a bit of a shite definition. But yeah, just extreme anger. I feel like I have quite a lot to say about wrath. I said the other day that when I'm feeling angry, which comes up quite a lot, my ideal day right now, if I could do whatever I wanted to do, would be if a middle-aged man knocked on my front door and volunteered to let me kill him. And I would have I'd have a really like leisurely morning. Of like taking his eyes out with my teeth.
Whilst you're having a nice flat white.
Getting a croissant. But yeah, it's that energy that like fills your body of like, where do you put that when all you want to do is like break a man's jaw in half with your fingernails? Like, where do you put that energy? Because for very good reason, that's not an acceptable thing to do.
Which is a shame.
It's a shame, yeah. Underrated move, I think.
Yeah, which is a real shame that you can't do that. And like where...
And we were saying, weren't we, that like out of all of the sins, it's like one of the more like, not unacceptable, but like you don't really know what you're meant to do with that feeling. You're not allowed to be full of wrath at work. You're not allowed to be full of wrath in your house. Like, you've just got to pretend it's not happening.
Yeah.
Which is crap.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like, I think you're told all the time that anything you're repressing or any part of yourself that you're sort of locking away and not showing people because it's not palatable or it's not like acceptable in society. Like, I feel like we all know now that that's unhealthy and that's not something that you should do, and that'll make you ill. And but then how do you? Because for very good reason, obviously, like, because anger leads to, I don't know, violence and being abusive and being unkind and being overly critical. And so, like, for very good reason, you've got to, like, watch how you're expressing it. But, like, how do you? Like, where does it go? And when I wake up some mornings, and sometimes I wake up and I feel absolutely fine, and it's not until the first person speaks to us that I hear, that I realise that I'm angry. Like, I can think I'm absolutely fine, and then someone will say something, and I'll just be like, and I'll be like, whoa, I didn't realise that was in there. That's just like sometimes it feels like a bar of soap where I'll be fine, and then suddenly this soap just like slips out my hand, and then and that's it. And like, yeah, what do you do?
Some people
With
punch
that?
walls, don't they?
Yeah.
Would like to punch a wall.
I feel like when I was at university, I would go to these flats and a man would live there, and there would be normally just a hole in the wall because they punched it. Yeah. But I don't think that works for women. Like, I don't feel like I've been to all of your houses, and there's never
Don't have any holes in
There's
the
never
walls.
been a hole in a wall or a
never
car
punched a wall.
or a door.
I've got
broken.
acrylics. I simply couldn't.
I can't because nails.
I'm
My
too
nails.
fit.
But then, as we've all agreed, there's nothing more embarrassing and unattractive than watching a man punch a wall.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing more
What did you
embarrassing.
say the other day? My Fanny just got up and ran down the street.
Got up and left the room. Like, and you always think it'll be dead fit if, like, a lad's like getting all angry, and it's like maybe it's to protect you, but actually when you watch it, oh God, it's awful.
Yeah, disappointing.
So
It is,
disappointing. Yeah.
But
I think
then
they'd do it a little better.
in Bridget Jones, when Daniel Cleaver and Mark Darcy fight over her, that is fucking fit. And they're in the fountain. But then, I don't know, maybe it isn't actually that fit.
But they play up to the fact that they're both quite like posh middle, like
who can't
gentlemen
really
who can't
fight.
really fight, don't they? So like there's that part of it as well, because they're like falling over each other and kind of like trying to pretend they know what they're doing when they just don't.
I have to say, like, I've told you this before, that a lot of my, I say a lot, 2 of my pan lids in my flat have big dents in them. And that's because I've had to throw them across the room.
But you wait though, don't
But
you?
I wait until... It's weird, isn't it? It's like I'll be so angry, but I'll wait until everyone's left the room, and until it's a time or an environment where I can do it, where no one will hear it, or I won't have to explain it, or like nobody will know that I did that, or at least a space where I could plausibly have just dropped it or something. Where if someone came into the room and be like, what the fuck was that? Be like, oh, just dropped the pan. But
I didn't fling it across the room.
Stot it across the room because I'm so angry, and there's that energy that needs to go somewhere. Yeah. And I find like writing helps a lot.
Oh my God, it's like when Lydia sent that email by accident. Can we talk about that on here?
I think so.
I'll talk about that, but we'll not
tell
name
us
any
the story?
names.
Okay.
I'll tell the story.
Bleep all the names out.
Yeah, okay. So, I'd applied for some funding from a company in London.
Of course it was London.
It was in London, yes. And,
Well, there you go.
I'd got the Megabus down.
Oh,
So I'd spent about 8 hours on this Megabus to meet these people. I was obviously very nervous. I'd done a lot of prep for this interview. And as I was speaking, it became very clear that this wasn't the right pot of funding for me, which is absolutely fine. However, as I was speaking, they just took their phones out and started to text other people as I was talking.
So even I've heard this story so many times and it still boils my piss.
And there was a picture of Judi Dench on the wall. And I was telling them about the name of the Aunt Fanny show, which was Minge Unhinged. And we've said that so many times to each other now. And this woman was quite elderly, but she pointed at the picture of Judi Dench and was like, imagine Judi Dench saying Minge Unhinged.
I think she'd fucking love it.
I know. I thought Judi Dench would love it as well. So, and I think, yeah, and anyway, I just got this whole...
she's not your mum.
Exactly. And I just got this whole feeling that they were like infantising me. They thought I was somehow silly because I was a woman working in comedy. Oh my God. They were also like, so you think you're Fleabag? Which I was just like, right, okay. And then anyway, so I left and I remember walking down the stairs and I just burst into tears. I was so sad. I was just like, I've came all this way, really thought it was going to be a good opportunity. And that happened. So I went to this pub and I was like, right, I've got my laptop. I'm just going to type. And I just typed the most awful things. This will have to be blotted out. But so the guy who was done it, he's the producer on the West End. And I was like, how dare you make a show about when you couldn't give like a working class person your time of day, how dare you tell working class stories? And like, really like, there was another bit when he was like, because he's working with, I was like, go suck on knob. And I was like, full on, you're all cunts, like, go kill yourselves. Like, I absolutely went for it. I've never like felt a rage like it. But also in between all this, it was like, I'm sat in a pub. This pub sells pies. I feel safe here. And like, it was just really random.
It was complete like madness, wasn't it?
Absolute chaos. And I read it. And anyway, it was fine. Then they'd message me being like, oh, hi. So obviously you didn't get the opportunity.
Obviously.
But would you like to do this course that we offer? And I said, oh yeah, the course sounds great. Can I get my travel invoiced? And they were like, yep, of course you can, no problem. So instead of sending them my travel invoice, I sent them that instead. And thankfully I was with yous at the time because we were up in Glasgow working. And I was like, yous, we need to stop. I've just found out that I've sent them this thing. And she was like, you've obviously attached something that I wasn't meant to read. And she was like, it was full of expletives and abusive language.
Oh my God.
And I was just like...
It's like this stuff of nightmares, isn't it?
It was
a dream
really,
about happening.
really... I was like, sorry, I went like, but
obviously I didn't mean you to see that.
Ultimately, you have charged that within someone and you should,
know that.
Yeah, you have actually really, really upset someone in the way that you've gone on and, you were very sexist, classist, blah, 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 I'm not gonna be like, oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't mean it. Can I do the course? Did you do I never went on the course.
They sent you quite a good email back after you did that though, because you like apologise, but you also like, but I will not apologise for the way that you made me feel.
Yeah.
And then they sent you a reply saying, I'm sorry you had such a bad experience, didn't they?
Yeah, they did apologise. But
too little too late, but
love them now.
But I do think you've got to like tell people sometimes, because it's so easy when you're in a position of wanting something from someone to be like, I'm just so grateful to be here. Just treat us any way you want. Because I'm just so lucky. And like, they needed fucking telling. That's not all right.
I know. I look back now and I'm like, actually, if that ever happens again, I'm just going to say, okay, I'll just wait for you to get off your phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look back and you're like, actually, I'm not going to be, I was 20, 21 or something.
But I think that's one of the hardest things about like wrath though, is that when you feel angry, sometimes it's really difficult to know how justified you are in that, because I think part of the reason that it's deemed unacceptable to perform anger like when you're in public is because quite often some of the things that make you angry might be small or seemingly small, or maybe somebody doesn't realise why it's made you incensed to the level that it has. And I think particularly in a situation like that where you're kind of in a position of needing something from someone else and they're like higher up in the industry or whatever, part of you is like, oh, maybe I'm not allowed to be cross at them for being on their phones, even though like later on you're like, no, absolutely, that was shocking, shouldn't have done that. It's quite hard to always know like whether you're justified in the feeling that you're like experiencing, or how much can you feel like rage at a certain thing. And I think, because like anger also fuels loads of really good things like climate activism. I don't know. Good one. Kill the bill. Kill the bill.
I know, true.
That wouldn't happen if you weren't angry, or like, Marcus Rashford feeding all the children. Like that wouldn't happen if he wasn't cross at the government for doing something. So like sometimes anger does let you know your sense of like right and wrong.
Because I just think of it as like a negative thing that needs to be quashed, and the ideal state is to never feel angry ever.
But then those people just snap one day and
Yeah, it's true.
That's true. Yeah, but I forget that it does fuel good things, like the thing with the abortion thing in Texas at the minute.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, like the rage that we all feel looking at that. And like, imagine if we were all just sort of like, oh, but I shouldn't really be angry.
apathetic.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like that's slightly different from someone, in your house not doing the dishes properly.
Slightly different.
Yeah. But yeah, it totally can be a good thing.
I think when Sarah Everard was killed in London, I was in London at the time, and me and Emma went on a protest about it. We just went, and it was like, I think actually like shouting at some police officers.
Oh my God, it was so fun.
It was like,
and I think that's
liberating,
very like anarchic, like energy was so important at that time as well. Like, because I've been to some protests where everyone sings a song and it's just not the same effect. But like screaming at coppers, and I don't know, it felt incredible. I felt like ready to, I'm glad there was a barrier there, because I was like, can we hit them? Because I'd quite like to hit them. And I wasn't going to hit them because they'd hit me harder. But yes, I think that was a really good cathartic thing for us to do.
It felt like a real, cathartic's a good word. And it'd been such an emotional week, especially like with social media and everything.
It was exhausting, wasn't it?
It was really a tiring time. But like, that was the only thing that made me feel better. It really was. Like, not a lot made me feel better about the whole thing, but going and just shouting and like stopping all the cars and all the buses. But there was also like a positivity to the protest as well. Like, all the bus drivers were like, go on, lads.
Oh, I love it when they honk the
It was
horns.
so nice, yeah.
I started a chant, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Did you?
yeah.
What was it?
I just said, fuck the police. But,
Original.
And I'd actually just copied most of the people who were doing that. But a few people did join in, and I did feel powerful.
I'd be buzzing.
It's a bit awkward though, because my sister's boyfriend at the time was a copper, but he'd understand.
Not all coppers.
Not all coppers.
Yeah, I think like what we've sort of come to realise, and something that we were all talking about as well, is that anger is so often, if not all the time actually, just hiding or a front for being hurt. And like that anger that you felt at the protest, like that's like pain underneath that. That's like hurt that you need to express, or that you need to like channel. And I know like something that really, really, really fucks me off on a daily basis is walking down the street. And I mean, this is all against middle-aged men. It's not always middle-aged men. But if I'm walking down the street, there is absolutely no way on God's earth that the middle-aged man walking in the other direction is going to move a fucking inch out of his way to let me go past.
Yeah.
And I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but it's just my entire, like I walked here this morning, and my entire walk, 45-minute walk, is spent like on the road, on the side of the road, because the other person won't budge. And tiny, I know in the scheme of things it's a tiny little thing, but I know that it makes me feel that I don't matter, that I don't have as much right to be on this path as that person does.
Yeah.
That actually it's my job to assess the entire street and work out a minute in advance, oh, actually that person's going to want to come past, so I'm going to have to cross over the road now, aren't I? And just that sort of like emotional labour, would you call that?
Yeah.
Or that,
Yeah,
like, I don't know,
yeah.
but that sort of like internal graft
Yeah.
that a middle-aged man would never experience, because it wouldn't occur to him that people just won't move out the fucking way for him.
I guess it's the same like with things in our houses that maybe don't. I know Jackie was talking about boyfriend like leaving tinfoil in the like sink, and we all had these little examples of stuff that's like seemingly really small, but like that you wouldn't do. And again, and we were all saying the same sort of thing, like it's not actually having to do that job that always necessarily pisses you off, it's having to have had the forethought about it. So like it's one thing asking like your partner or your flatmate to be like, oh, could you give me a hand with this? But you know in your head that you've done the emotional labour and the work in terms of like figuring out what all those things are, and like you feel like this neurotic, crazy, nagging person, but actually you're just like, you haven't thought about me as much as I've thought about you. And it is so infuriating and upsetting, I guess, to a certain extent, isn't it?
Exactly. It comes from the anger's what comes out, but it comes from a place of, you haven't thought about me during the day once, whereas I have planned the entire day up until going to bed, sort of vaguely in my head of like, oh, well, we'll eat this and then I'll need to cook this, or I'll need to and when someone else just sort of rocks up totally like present in the moment, hasn't given you a second thought, like, and it comes out as being a neurotic, nagging, horrible bitch.
I was saying the other day that I feel sometimes that if I never spoke to Josh, we would just sit on opposite sofas and in silence, and he would never turn a light on. And I just feel like that's just totally what it's like. And I'm sure, you know, if I actually gave him the chance to do that, it might not come to it. But sometimes I'm like, why haven't you opened the blinds? Why haven't you turned a light on? Do you not want it to be nice in our home? But which makes me feel insane. But actually, it's I guess it's that thing of putting the thought and consideration into not just yourself, but everyone around you.
Hi everyone. Fanny Sweet Pea here. I'm just trying out some new material today, so haven't done this for a little while. I'm a bit nervous. Go easy. This one is called I Want to Scoop Out Your Eyeballs and Spread Them on Me Toast. Okay. Right. You dressed up as a Viking, and me Fanny left the room. I took up day drinking. You started whittling spoons. I want to take that unsanded spoon, scoop out your eyeballs and spread them on me toast. Make a roast. Feed it to your family, served with your mediocre scrotum and pedo tash. Remember when you got a rash? I told you it was syphilis. Hid the Savlon in me knicker drawer, just an excuse to stop you kissing us. I ate your hair out of the sink to make you fall back in love with me. It got stuck in me throat and I choked, had to tell you what I'd done. Thought you'd think it was fun. You didn't. You bought underpants made out of hemp and started drinking out of a horn. I thought alcoholics were meant to be fun, but you make me wish I'd never been born. You gave me chlamydia. That's when I knew I had to get rid of you. Thanks so much. Yous have all been lush. Could you just, if you want to give me any feedback or anything, it's at Fanny Sweet Pea. Yeah, it'd be lovely to know what you think. Anyway, thanks so much. See you soon. Bye.
How one of the things that makes you most angry is a thing that you are quite partial to yourself. That one of your own sort of bad habits that you slip into.
Projecting.
Yes.
My mum's a therapist. She told me about that.
Like, for example, I think that I'm quite shy naturally. If left to my own devices, I'd rather not make small talk with people. I'd rather not talk to strangers. But obviously, being a woman, you don't get that fucking luxury, do you? Whether I want to speak to you or not, I'm going to have to say, how are you? I'm going to have to remember everything about your life. I'm going to have to ask you, how your wife is and I'm going to have to remember what job she does, and I'm going to do you know what I mean? You've got to do all that kind of thing. So I just think that being shy isn't really an option. I think being shy is a bit of a luxury. I don't have that. So when I am around people who are quite shy and wear it quite openly, and they're like, oh well, I'm just an introvert, you know. I'm like, well, aren't we all?
Yeah.
That's not how the fucking world works. You've got stuff to do. You've got to be polite to people. So and it really annoys us. And I think my number one irritation, the thing that fucks me off more than anything else, is people being timid. And that is because I have a tendency to be quite timid. I'm shitting myself at all times. So when somebody, like when I was working in a school last year, and it would be like some like year 7 girls would come up and be like, oh, my friend wants to ask you a question. She says that she feels a bit sick and she was wondering if you could ring her mum. I'm like, why don't your fucking friend ask us then? Like, what do you think I'm going to do? Like, it's inefficient. If you're going to be scared talking to a teacher at school, where are you going to get? Like, it's going to be a long life.
Right.
Like some little, like I said, there were like baby birds with their mouths open, just like utterly inept, just standing there waiting to be fed and clothed and ordered around. And that filled me with such rage. Like I would have to like go into the toilet at work and like sit on the floor with me head between me knees and take some deep breaths. And every time I got in the car at lunchtime to eat my lunch, because the staff room was shut, I'd eat in the car, I'd have to scream at the top of my voice, really. And it was all right because it was break time, so all the kids were out playing, so you couldn't hear it. And I'd have to scream at the top of me.
It's like an indie film.
Every lunchtime.
I feel like I've seen this scene somewhere.
I am very indie film. Manic Pixie Dream Girl. That's it.
Are you 500 Days of Summer?
And so yeah, but I know that comes from a place of jealousy almost.
Would you love to be a baby bird?
I'd love to be a baby bird. I'd love to feel so secure and so safe and so familiar that you could just sit there with your mouth open, knowing that everyone would just do things for you.
Like literally, where I know I like to talk about when I got my wisdom tooth taken out, but it was the only surgery I've ever had, and it was traumatizing. Actually, no, it was great actually, but my favourite thing about it all was that because I was so fucked from the medication and that, and then I just had a carer all day. So Leanne would just my friend would just put us to bed. She wasn't very good at it, to be honest, because we ended up in the pub. But would put me to bed, and then when I woke up and I had blood all over my face, she mopped it up, fed me some cottage cheese, and I felt like a little baby bird, just kind of I was so pathetic and couldn't do anything. And it felt like I was on holiday, like what a holiday is meant to feel like. You know what I mean? You just don't lie there. And that's it.
It's almost like a luxury that you're ill, Emma.
Oh my God, when I got COVID, best week of my life. I was literally oh my God, just pop a bluey, have a lie down. just get mashed every night and just float through that week. Honestly, oh God, it was the first day I was like, this is the worst thing ever. I can't believe I've broken up with someone, moved out, accidentally a bit homeless, everything's illegal, and now I've got COVID. But it was just nice to lie down.
Yeah,
really.
No responsibility.
Probably did you the world a good in a way.
It did, because I couldn't even leave my actual room. So I just had food on my doorstep. Didn't have to shower. It was always a plus.
I knew a girl, and growing up, her mum would, so I think she has 3 sisters, and her mum would make not 3 different meals, but 5. She would give whatever they wanted for their tea, they would get.
It was time for that.
That is so unacceptable.
But also how entitled your child will become. I get it, okay, maybe if one of your kids wants to be vegan for the week, I get that, a vibe, but whatever. But I remember just being quite incensed by that, and I was just your mum makes you're all different food.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when does she have time to eat? Like,
She probably
No, I
has the
remember we
scraps
used to
at the
have-
end.
Yeah, no, we used
Out
to
the
get
bin.
peanut butter sandwiches every day for lunch at school. I love peanut butter, right? But we used to get this bread that would be put in the freezer. My dad would make the sandwiches on the frozen bread and hope that they'd defrosted by the time we got to lunchtime. So sometimes on a warm day it would work and be fine. Sometimes you'd get like a really hard bit in the middle of your sandwich, and then you hear things like that where people are getting like their own specialised meal.
Like people who had frubes at school, like frubes and
Tories,
cheese strings
yeah.
and
Fruit winders, we weren't allowed fruit
winders.
winders.
do you remember those snackable lunch boxes?
yeah.
I look back now and I'm like, that's sad and grim. The tiny little circles of
don't know.
ham.
I feel like I want to say my parents did make a lot of nice meals.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to listen to this and I feel like I'm going to get told off.
Isn't it funny? Matilda turned out so tall and pretty, even though all she ate was frozen bread. For every meal for 18 years.
That was just for lunch. I just mean we weren't allowed to like, be fussy about it, you know. And I think kids and families who were like, they always had really full fridges and like they could have whatever they wanted all the time. I just used to be like, so now it drives me mad when people are like that.
Aye. Something that I did quite want to talk about is Faye from Love Island.
Yes.
Because embarrassingly, I got quite emotional talking about this, which is a bit embarrassing. But to maybe as a disclaimer to make myself feel a bit better, I would argue that it's not very often in popular culture or anything really that you see a young woman being really fucking angry and really unreasonable
Yeah.
and aggressive. And I think that's something that I've really struggled with, because you feel like you are the only person who feels like that. And on top of the guilt you already have of like, oh, I said this thing to someone that I maybe shouldn't have said, or whatever, you also have the guilt of this isn't normal. And like, if you were a normal person, you wouldn't be feeling this, because who do you know who ever feels like this? And I think that was something that I found really comforting when we did our prep for this, was you saying how fucking angry you got sometimes. And like, I think how close we are, that it was mad that kind of still, that hadn't really come up.
And it felt like really physical. Like you were saying, Matilda, like we all started to like slowly stand up and like cry and then shout and scream and kind of it's something that like you don't really realise that maybe everyone has that. And then like should it not be, there should be a better way of dealing with it. Like you can go to those rooms where you smash it up, but I swear it's quite expensive, which again just makes me annoyed. Like, not just go somewhere and smash something up for free. Like,
I know. And how do you know you're going to be annoyed that day? I might be in a good mood that
exactly.
day.
Yeah.
It would be
it
on
would
a
probably-
whim.
yeah.
I'd want to go in.
Maybe that's why they make it expensive, to guarantee that you're pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aye. What you were saying, Lydia, about how, because Faye on Love Island is a white woman, the anger is considered like acceptable, and how different that would be if it had been somebody else, like if it had been Teddy who'd got angry.
And I think it was very obvious when you were watching it that he just felt like he couldn't get angry, because as a society we would have been like, aggression from black men is perceived as society as something that is outright wrong, and you know, and I think you saw him feel really stifled in that. I know I did. And she was a white woman shouting at this black man, and I don't know.
What I found interesting watching that episode, and I mean, you know, Love Island famously doesn't handle anything well, especially race. So,
God.
you know,
What?
groundbreaking. You heard it here first. Anyway. But there was something interesting watching it because the immediate response from all of his male friends was to try and calm her down. And they all went over one by one to like be like, look, you've got to see it from his perspective. Thing is, like, he's a nice guy. And she was just like, every single one of them came over and she was just like, and you can fuck off and all. And I was a little bit like, yeah, like, what are you doing? Give her some space. Let it go off and blow off some steam. Like, yeah, you know, punch a wall, smash a few pots, whatever you need to do. Like, the last thing you need when you're that angry is for someone who, because it's again that same thing of them thinking they had a better understanding of the situation than her, and they were trying to tell her how she should be feeling, and she just wasn't having any of it. And yeah, maybe 2 days was too long for her to seethe and wallow in that. And what she was saying to him was unreasonable. But when the others got involved and their immediate response was to try and calm her down, I was like, actually, that's not really helpful.
Well, it's like when anyone tells you to calm down in life, it's almost like it's like a punch in the face, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it does the opposite.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think that's the thing that infuriates me about it the most. I'm like, actually, you must know by now that telling someone, particularly a woman, when she's angry to calm down is not going to help you make her more calm.
And it's strange. It's almost as if it's like men can't deal with it. It's like a societal thing of women being muted and like they can't. It's like, oh my God, this pot has bubbled over. How do I cope with this? And it's like, well, actually, it's not good to just turn down the heat. You have to let everything come out. And yeah, I think there's possibly a societal thing there of yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes feel like when I've been furious, of like, it's like, it really reminds us of, you know, when you've got to put your sleeping bag into its tiny pack.
Oh my God, yes.
Such a good analogy.
I'm so angry. And I'm like, no, it's not all right. I've got to shove this sleeping bag into this fucking tiny drawstring packet.
Yeah.
And I've got to stamp on it and sit on it and like, just because it's not okay, just keep like shoving it in.
And then you end up just dragging it all hanging out anyway without actually putting it in.
You never get it all in. And it's always
tent as well.
Shape.
Camping, lots of different camping things are
lots
quite...
of camping analogies.
Yeah, camping analogies.
So yeah, seeing Faye from Love Island being an absolute arsehole on the telly was really like... and
refreshing.
It was. And she was ridiculous. And like, she was like, her behaviour wasn't all right. But just seeing somebody who was my age kind of feel that, and the way she almost like wallowed in it kind of thing. Like, I think I was saying how like, I think it's really sad that that's the first sort of time in like popular culture where I've like seen it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas like, I don't know, men have fucking rugby.
Yeah.
Or like they're always hitting each other.
What were you saying about what's that ball game that women do?
Oh, netball.
Netball. And how
netball.
like you have to be all small and you can only move on one leg and then you can't touch anyone and you've got to throw it in a net. You wear a little skirt. Like, and men are like nutting each other. And like, oh my God,
break each other's legs and
stuff. So stupid. Like, where's our outlet?
I know.
At school, we could either play netball or sometimes they would just stick us in the gym hall and put a Zumba video on. Whilst the boys were like running around outside. And I'm like, this is not good. Like, what are you teaching all of us?
I played rugby well. One time, one of the teachers was off ill, so we had another teacher, and he let us play rugby as a treat. And but we were just doing the training for it, and we just had to wrestle like a big sausage, like this big sausage. You had to like run and like wrestle it to the ground. And I didn't have any friends already, and I looked unusual. All my PE kit was out the lost property box. No one really knew who I was. My hair was very long. I had, I wanted to save the whales. But I think because I didn't have any mates, I didn't give a fuck about anyone. And I did just wrestle, I nearly said a name there, but a girl in my class just wrestled her to the ground with this big sausage. And it was amazing. And I just kept doing it over and over again. And I just felt so, someone in the end said, watch out, Crowley Bennett's about. And I thought, hello, looks like I've got a fucking personality, finally. Someone might be scared of us, which has never happened before. And I think I was expelling some deep anger there about being a freak.
Funny that, like, that we say anger is such an unacceptable thing, but there's always something kind of nice when somebody tells you that they're scared of you. Like, I don't know, I definitely remember a couple of people saying that to me at school, and I think that's just because I was like really trying hard to concentrate on my lessons, so I never really smiled that much. I know.
We wouldn't have been pals. Virgin.
So I think I always had quite a stony expression, but it wasn't because I was being mean. So people would be like, "Oh, I'm a bit scared of you," because I was quiet. I guess I didn't really know what was going on, but I always remember being quite like a little bit pleased about it, even though I know that being angry and unlikable is not supposed to be a good trait. But you do kind of go a bit
totally. Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
I'd love to have a resting bitch face. I just don't. But it's also such a dumb concept as well. It's just a woman sitting down. Why does it have to be she rests like a bitch?
Yeah, oh my God, you can't even rest anymore. Jesus.
Women can't even rest
without being called a bitch. Look at that fucking bitch resting.
Let Matilda concentrate on a maths.
Oh, what a dick.
Dean, 29, 2 mile away. Looking for a girl who doesn't take herself too seriously. A hidden talent of mine is helping you parallel park. You should go out with me because I can download any film illegally. Just give us a day's warning and you'll never have to pay $2.99 on Amazon Prime again.
Jake, 27, 4 miles away. I want someone who will also come food shopping at 9 p.m. I'll brag about you to me friends if you have seen American Psycho. A recent shower thought, if women don't want to be dominated, how do you explain 50 Shades success? Genuine question.
Luke, 24, 2 mile away. My best life hack. Leave dishes to soak for 3 days before washing. My most controversial opinion is there's no need to ever open the blinds or the curtains. First round on me if you don't take yourself too seriously.
Craig, 30, 7 miles away. My love language is cooking for you using every pan in the kitchen. Believe it or not, I can get through 3 days of food shopping in only 1 meal. Change my mind about Stephen Graham, Tom Hardy and Christian Bale being the greatest living actors. I'll wait.
James, 23, 1 mile away. Give us travel tips for black holes. You can it. I already know everything there is to know. Don't hate me if I sometimes hang me wet clothes on top of your dry ones. Shrug emoji. My mantra is don't waste time checking cupboards before food shopping. Just buy everything you think you might need.
Paddy, 26, 6 miles away. Together we could never fully make our bed. I'll fall for you if you know where this quote's from. Royale with cheese. This year, I really want to travel Vietnam.
Dan, 21, 1 mile away. The dorkiest thing about me is I literally have to make eye contact when cheersing. I get along best with people who don't take themselves too seriously. The key to my heart is the cheapest bread available.
I wish that there was a way where it could be seen and expressed in a healthy, non-judgmental way. But I like don't know what that would look like. Like classic, I'm just saying we need that, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
Like, where can you even go? I feel like even if you want to go and have a shout or a scream, you've got to go for a walk or something. And
Or do
go really
yoga
far
and
away.
breathe.
Oh,
It's
no.
like
It's all about
actually you need
changing it,
to,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, oh, what's the opposite of anger? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's yoga.
it.
Yeah.
It's yoga.
Yeah, it's actually it's almost unhelpful. And then you do that quashing thing that you feel like you're doing all the time,
Yeah.
and you're just going, oh, I'm going to just squash this with yoga. But actually, you need to fare from Love Island sometimes.
Sometimes you do.
You do.
For
And
days.
I think also as well, what tends to happen is if you like don't get like angry at the right things, it's the same with crying. I think like quite often I like hold my tears back for ages, and then something really tiny will like set me off. Like I'll have had like a bad few days, and then I'll get a ladder in my tights and burst into tears. And I'll be like, but I've just bought these and it's awful. And I'll be like proper sobbing. And then I'm like, well, actually, that's just because I've not cried about a few other things that I probably should have done. And anger's really similar. Like it's why quite often you wait until you get home and then you shout at the person you love the most in the world for something that they've not even really done.
Yeah.
Then sometimes when women become a certain age where it's almost more acceptable, they really like lean into it. I know you were saying your mum's doing that at the minute, isn't she?
Yeah, she's just totally up for being angry, and sometimes I kind of love the fact that some men down our street don't like her, because she just like doesn't care about anything. Like, she went viral on Facebook recently for on the Roland Skill Facebook page because she'd been dragging logs across cycle paths, hoping to trip up cyclists because she just loves the woods that she lives next to and doesn't think that men on bikes should be there. And someone caught her doing it on his GoPro dick. And with her little dog, which hilariously is a really aggressive dog as well. So my mum, this aggressive tiny mum, and aggressive tiny Patty the dog. Just these images of my mum like running out of this cycle path where she just left loads of logs, and my dog barking at the man. And he posted it on the Rowan Skill Facebook page and called her she doesn't know this. She called her an old witch. And I was like, oh. But I was also like, maybe she loves that. Maybe that's really mint, and I'd quite want to be called a witch. Yeah, like what an angry recluse woman who has like mad hair and like makes potions and does cool stuff. Like maybe that's fine. Like, but
curses people.
Oh yeah,
curses
I love that.
people.
I think witches are just outspoken women.
and
I think-
honestly, if there's going to be a witch, my mum is a witch. Like she.
I love that for Gina.
I don't like annoying witches though. You know, like annoying like people
Instagram
who like
witches.
Instagram witches,
Instagram
like
witches, yeah.
just fucking
No, I
burn
know.
stuff and they're annoying.
Yeah, when I don't mind a witch who doesn't talk about it. A quiet witch, beautiful, not a loud one.
I love how it would just be like, oh yeah, witches are outspoken and violent. Don't fucking talk about being a witch.
No one can ever win.
I think maybe women have had to be a lot more clever about our anger, because physically there's not much we can do. You know what I mean? Like, if a man gets angry, he could probably beat someone to death. But like, if I got really angry, I probably still couldn't do that. So I'd have to wait until...
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit, Katie.
You could kill a man.
Thank you,
I honestly think we all could.
Aw.
I stand, yeah.
But I think traditionally women have had to wait months to say if like we wanted to kill somebody, would maybe have to go out and buy some poison from the shop.
Oh yeah.
And then wait and think about the best day to slip it into some food and things. Do you know what I mean? Like, your anger has to be delayed, like it has to. You've got to, if you want to express it, you've got to be calculated about it.
Yeah,
You've got to
literally.
like be clever about it, because physically in the moment, there's fuck all you can do, really. And so it's much more of a delayed thing. It's much more of like a simmering, calculated sort of choice, rather than like rage that
An
just
outlet.
causes instant damage. Exactly. You can't, there's no outlet to like, it takes you've got to think about it.
Although it doesn't immediately help, I do think there's some power in being able to do that, though. And I think this comes across in our writing for our shows quite a lot. A lot of the characters that we make are fueled by stuff that has pissed us off in the past. And because we've not been able to say what we wanted at the time, we have to be funny. And, and I think that does help us in our shows, that it wouldn't be the same if we were, writing a joke about someone that was smacked. But because we're restrained ourselves and held back, later we can get together and be like, well, these are all the things that went through my head that I wasn't allowed to say at the time. So there's definitely some power in being able to restrain.
Anything bad that ever happens to me, my sisters are always like, oh, just write about it. You'll be fine. Just make a play, which is nice, but also sometimes you don't want to write a play.
Yeah, but it's not as, well, maybe it is, but it doesn't feel as satisfying, does it? Of I want to throw a chair at you, but instead a room full of strangers will laugh at what you just said in 6 months' time.
Yeah. But they're usually laughing at them, though. They're not laughing with the person.
No. And it is more there's more pride in it, and it's more of an intelligent response. And it's more of I don't know, where if enough people see this and laugh at this, maybe people will stop saying shit like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as well, so much of being a woman, especially in situations that are predominantly male, you are often stood on the side, laughing. And I know I've felt that a lot. And I think there is a joy, though, in knowing that I can come to you and be like, lads.
As a woman, that's what I should call the podcast.
As a woman.
We talk a lot about the emotional labour of where I'm so at my limit that if one more thing enters my consciousness, I'm going to collapse. There's no room for one more thing. I've just got it balanced. And if everything, just day at a time, everything stays the way it's supposed to, then I'll be fine.
And imagine if something big happened, like your boiler broke.
Oh.
How do people cope when their boiler breaks?
I don't know.
Stuff that's just and suddenly the house is flooded.
Yeah.
And you've got to deal with all of that.
Well, maybe that's where if there was a man in the house, because their brain is not used up by all of the
minutiae of day-to-day life.
Exactly. Of I need to return that because the receipt runs out tomorrow, etc. Because they're not busy thinking about those things. The boiler breaks and they're like, oh, I'm just in the moment with a broken boiler. So therefore, I will get it fixed. And they're like, God, will you calm down? It's only a broken boiler.
I had a bit of a sad time recently over the past few months, and it was like life was just consistently punching me in the tit over and over again. It was almost comical, and I remember going for a walk in London near where I lived, and I got to this little park, and it was just getting a bit dark, and I sat on a bench and looked out over a patch of nettles. And I remember people walked past and were kind of looking at me, and I was weeping, but I was weeping on a bench. And I remember feeling that kind of it's just every day one thing on top of the other is just, it's getting more and more difficult and intense and hard to just absolutely just keep living actual life and doing everything you need to do. And I thought maybe if I was such a boiling point, this absolute shit show was just bubbling up to my eyeballs. And I thought, if I just took off all of my clothes right now and just walked through the nettles, or got them all over my body, got all stung and red, and then climbed this barbed wire fence that was just there, and just kind of ran around, being absolutely bananas, that someone would see it and be like, oh, better ring the coppers. And then they'd ring the police and the police would come and they'd section me, and then I'd be all nice and sectioned and just like in a padded cell, and they'd just take my phone away and give me a meal, and then that would be immense. And then you just wouldn't have to think about it anymore. Everyone would worry about you, but you didn't have to hear it.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have your phone. You're just quietly being worried about somewhere else, like for like 2 weeks, like 2 weeks tops, and then just bring me out. Have a glass of water, I'll be fine. I just want to be sectioned. I don't really want to be sectioned anymore. I'm fine now.
I love the like elaborate lengths you go to in your head to not need to be on your phone. Oh my God.
I know it's so true though that like you should. I think that thing of when it's building up and building up and building up, but it's so easy to crack on.
Yeah.
As normal. Do you know what I mean? And you want to be like, how can everyone not notice that I'm at my limit? But you can just do such a good job of like, oh yeah, I'll still do all the things that I need to do, and I'll still be polite, and I'll still.
And you're like
Do we
absolutely
make
like
up?
crumbling inside, but people are like, yeah, you look lovely. Have you lost weight? Like, it's the stress and the depression. Yeah.
In the spirit of wrapping this up, I found something that was, I'm saying found, it was on Wikipedia. There was like a table of all of the 7 deadly sins, vice, if you like, and then opposite it was the virtue. So if wrath is the vice, it said the virtue is patience. And that really spoke to me.
You're going to say that pissed me off.
Yeah. Imagine. I was raging and threw my computer out the window. Because working, like we said before, like in hospitality or in customer service, like when I was working at the school, I was on the front desk, and like patience was something that I, as a non-religious person, prayed for like every single day. That was like the exact word was patience. And I used to write myself little notes and stick them on my screen that would be like, people are doing the best they can. Because I'd be like, even if this woman on the phone is gonna call me a bitch, and even if our son is gonna be useless, and even if my boss is gonna shout at us, like I need to believe that they are doing their best, because I just need to believe that. Otherwise, I'm gonna murder them. And a bit like their best isn't fucking good enough. I would say. So patience as the virtue, as sort of being the opposite of wrath, if you like, really, really, really makes a lot of sense to me, because I think working in a school particularly really brought my rage to the forefront because it ticked that specific box of people being inept. But I've also noticed that everyone who worked in a school has that, like, what to me just seems like an alien, like, virtue, which is patience and compassion. I don't know, like, is it like almost like a calling of like people who are nurses or teachers or whatever, of having that, that compassion and being able to see past people being arseholes to you?
I don't know, I guess it's still weighing like an opposing thing against something else and saying one is bad and the other isn't. Whereas actually I think with everything, it can be expressed in a good and a bad way, you know, like, because obviously patience is good and it's important to understand what other people have got going on and consider that before you like make assumptions about them. But then on the other hand, in some situations, sitting back and not saying anything and making excuses for everyone around you doesn't always help. So,
that's so wise.
You know, I think it's important to have patience and wrath.
Space for both.
But use them in the right way rather than using either of them in the wrong way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I used to feel, well, I do still feel like if I ever lose my temper, I feel almost as if like a tit's popped out. Do you know what I mean? I'll explain. I've almost flashed them, and I'm so embarrassed that happened. And you know, and you're like, when your face goes
something
hot,
you shouldn't,
and you're like, oh shit, I've like emotionally flashed them. They've seen this like horrible, dirty, vulnerable part of myself that I'd really tried to deny and shove into the sleeping bag.
Feel like that.
No, you shouldn't.
But like, yeah, there should be space for both, shouldn't there? There should be some kind of like, there's room for both, and there's a time and a place for both. If your Aunt Fanny was to write an alternative definition to wrath after everything that we have discussed, what would it be?
I guess I would say that it can be important in certain situations, that it's not a dirty thing we need to pretend we don't feel.
It gets shit done. I feel like wrath gets shit done.
Yeah.
Wrath, getting shit done.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Let us bitches
Full
rest.
Maybe that's the definition. Let the bitches rest.
Let the bitches rest.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Match Made in 7. Join us next Monday when we'll be taking on greed. Subscribe to our channel to be the first to listen. You can find the accompanying playlist to this episode on our Spotify. Just search Your Aunt Fanny. We're also at Your Aunt Fanny on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Sound design and music by Jeremy Bradfield.